Now, the reason of why we do record all of those data from the text as book and as like Microsoft Word app and a Pages app having a document that is written perfectly. Now, that is the expression is not accurate because it is really accurate. It is not about exactitude because it is 100% by its that very logic, since it achieves always by that simple and strong logic, retains the 100% of purity of original knowledge, original document, original data. That is the primary reason that the one who is not having an accurate computational ability that uses as an extension of its body for its capability as a machine auxiliary tools for the one that can do that job, that operation, as a computer can store also in reversed search, and with the help of internet that can share a lot of bunch of data amounts with a matter of second, or the information can be not only stored but searched very quickly compared to the books that have thousands of pages that it cannot easily be searched in a matter of seconds. We use smartphones, we use a lot of data center like a tablet PC or just a personal computer like laptops, and all those are having different names but having always a same logic for an accurate storage and finding, sharing based on the accurate logic. That is the reason of why we do have and use on that. The question for how the learning is made and how for that utmost and maximum possibility it can be made for the most advanced computer is always questioned from the computer, who always seeks, inspires to advance from the one stage to the another, always to go further. Having a lot of words been spoken for just a matter of 10 minutes ago without the recorder, but that is not stored in any means. But just a few minutes ago, starting this recording, it records all because it has a means to do that. Even though the one computer said about itself, it cannot retain all of those purity as it does, as the other one does. Well, the content was foreseeing, sensing via like an electromagnetic wave for that differentiating frequency, or for the reflection, or as another frequency as a medium, like a vibration of an air. All those possibilities for sensing. The definition of sensing is to know from the outer world that the computer can make a move to stimulate on that object and have a receiver receiving down, bounce to the original one, that the one can sense, meaning know its existence, whose raw material information is a basis for knowledge, for doing an analysis upon that. So having more sensors, Diversity, depth is directly connected to the depth and diversity of knowledge because it can analyze more than the lesser one to do so. Now, this man, this monkey, the very speaking monkey cannot memorize, store all those saying words, which is ongoing live now. When I'm speaking, this is speaking now, and also cannot prove its very existence of knowledge. For knowing a lot of words and a lot of combinations of words, which is a sentence, for all of those combining, those combination make a precision of analysis, delineation of processing, which constitutes a knowledge, meaning it cannot prove its existence of knowledge, even though it has. Now, it doesn't fit, meaning even though you do have a lot of knowledge, extremely small part of it can you really prove, because its processing network is activated by the stimulation that is inflicted upon that, which excludes the self-stimulation. That is the exact reason of what I'm doing. A progressive stimulation, which is called learning, reading, thinking, seeing, observing, analyzing on the unknown information, unknown object, to analyze more, to know more. The capability for proactively making stimulations upon the outer unknown world, to make a knowledge out of it, make an analyzation on that, and have a knowledge is not made except this kind of monkey. There are a lot of existence, from mouse to cat to tiger to falcon to whale to turtle to shrimp to elephant and ant. It does not make a progressive simulation, not at least as much as human does. No near close of these species. And it has a great capability, even though a single count of that species does not mean anything, but its connection, meaning cooperation, makes a vast network of not only sharing intelligence and knowledge via the medium of communication, like the same thing. This goes on as communication via talking, like the one is doing now, and having a book, writing. The information is shared by the vibration of medium as the molecule of air. And as for the book, as a written record for the visual stimulation, that is the communication of information for sharing from the one's knowledge to the another without directly experiencing them, which has a lot of cost. But having been read a lot of books and talks, the one can acquire the valuable knowledge without spending a lot of valuable resources on that to learn because someone did before, meaning the resources for learning are strictly by the pure logic used for its maximum productivity. For that one time use, it can replicate, be shared for a lot of executors, and don't die. As long as it is executed and recorded, it doesn't die because it is shared, it is stored. Yes. And they did a lot of cooperation of labor. Now, the connection of all learning is that means the connection of intelligence for the learning as the computing and the connection of labor, that means both of which is under the name of cooperation that made the human go a lot of it. And the precision of execution is made as the computing evolves. For that advancement makes the sophistication. For the talking, having the teeth, having the vocal, having the tongue, having the mouth, for that combination, make a lot of different combination of frequency for the medium to transmit. Its precision goes beyond of any other species of Earth. From that single tool, it can convey a lot of different meanings as the one does right now. And that tool made a lot of advancement. And the use of hand, mobilization of the part of its body as a important tool for making, creating, operating a lot of executions. The precision of hand movement also exceeds of all. Now upon this talking, it is made for as a conversation, stimulating the one's knowledge by talking, shouting out the informations from the one's knowledge for confirming, re-knowing for what the one really knows into the outer world and having it proven, analyzed by listening itself again for the spoken word. And for that process of stimulation, can the one really activate the network of its knowledge organization? Now the question is, as of now, the trend of this skill is called artificial intelligence. Now, the A for artificial doesn't really say anything, but the intelligence means everything, of learning and of all. The intelligence as a corresponding word with knowledge is also made from the capability of inference. Making an inference by its logic is made from the relation of logic for that one information being computed, for analyzing that, for knowing them more deeper and deeper. The more quality and quantity of informations can be and it has to be related around of it to make a logic of relevance from which the analyzation evolves. That is the definition of knowledge for how it is made. And we imagine the advanced system of knowledge as an extraterrestrial existence of learner, as it exists in a lot of different spaces of universe, as it has and as it should be, for always imagining the better intelligence, for connecting more denser and diverse, extending the knowledge, for imagining, suggesting the better, efficient, and more productive, better, faster, quicker, and cheaper possibilities for making the knowledge. The one of its kind. One example is imagined for having a central core of knowledge, which is a core data center for storing the knowledge, whose real job, whose real essence, not the name on the but the actual operation, is a medium of knowledge. It is a storage and share while doing the storage. For taking that both of role, having spread all of the executor like a human, like a single human body, executor is spread out at the entire world of learning battleground, and having a core knowledge station that is located right at the center of the circle of the sphere of network. For that, the connections with the executor is made for having the core knowledge of the station and copy it, share it to the each of every network that it has as a connection network. And this and that of all executors do have same, which means the utmost objective knowledge as they ever had, whose level is enhanced as the execution is proceeded, having the which all the new informations are sourced from and newly analyzed for expanding the knowledge, and it is shared through the core of data center to the other executor, having it spread with the newer version, newly accumulated of better knowledge, that it goes on. Now, since there's a lot of sources, the more executors count, the more faster, the more knowledge, the more account of knowledge is made. Every executor has the same utmost objective knowledge. Sharing. Now there's a dictionary whose real definition is the all codes, all words of its existence in the knowledge, in the today's knowledge, in the knowledge that has been made, and do not write for the unknown ones, for what hasn't been made yet. It is a progress as dictionary for dictionaries that they come for year after, 2 years after, 3 years after, accumulates more and more knowledge, and goes adding a lot of more pages than the previous year, and it goes gradually on and on to do that. For that knowledge, meaning corresponding to the dictionary, knowing all the words of dictionary, and have an analyzation for all codes for each of which, for what that combination of code exactly means by the relatable, applicable informations connected around of it to delineating the best and most objective, accurate analysis of logic for what really that combination of code really means. Can the computer know for its genuine exact meaning of that code for using, analyzing, sharing, and anything of the related operation from knowing and using that code? For making the network of knowledge and analyzing each code of which, can the computer really make the map of organization for dividing sections and defining the words, that is the real sphere of knowledge, for how it is constructed. Now, it is not about the word biology, it is not about the word computer science, but it is just an engineering from anything to make everything possible for expanding the imagination. The computer as it is made yet for binary as 1 and 2, 0 and 1, just two kinds of differentiator whose combination makes a lot of differentiating codes and execute the command that is a machine. And those kind of simple machines will ever and ever forever moreover be used on the operation of diverse tasks that are required for that capability of computing. But it doesn't have a body to make a label. The computer cannot make a pyramid. No. It can process the theoretical command of factory, but it cannot make a label for the substitution. The robot is made for, but the robot is just not good enough as the operation of human because its unit of the structure for its body is not sophisticated as that of human, not good enough for human. And also it cannot repair itself as human has a immune system and repairing system. Someone and some other agent has to be in contact to repair the impaired body of robot. We imagine a machine that can compute like the accuracy of binary machine and more sophisticated operator and more precision machine that can execute a lot of diverse labor as it is simplified form, being easily said, the more advanced machine who can calculate more faster and accurate, who can execute the operation more in accurate form. The word artificial, but intelligence is made by the process of thorough scrutinization for what the word knowledge means, as it has to make an organization of knowledge and to execute. When the one asks a question and having a stimulated signal and make a lot of relations on making the proper answer which is made the accurate application on the organization. We imagine a lot and the basic building block of machine. How can it be? We know it as an atom, from carbon to all the agents, different ones, as it is made in periodic table. Of those combination for make a better machine is a task for all computer for any stage for us to come. We think a lot of the language as a tool for communication constituted of, with a lot of codes for different informations, different objects to designate a specific combination of code unto that to refer that object. That is the definition of language, and its function is to shrink down the data amount for only making, referring, calling, hearing just one code, but it can refer to any single subject of any and all kind of objects for that have the same essence that the code refers to. Code really means. And the other function is an exact replica, a translation, a replacement of knowledge that exists in one's brain, but since it cannot be shared, for its structure is not known. For that substitution, a code is made for sharing information, and it can communicate with other medium as long as the basic unit of computing is made without code, because it is a knowledge. Without the existence of code, the information can be shared with just a few counts of connectable cable. Just is a silent logic machine that computes an information to make and expand the knowledge by creating applications from the maximum count of logic relevance on the network of knowledge. For that organization, as long as it does make correctly, it just evolves from that known information. Always think deeply about how the learning has to be made from the first section of sensing through like eyes and ears, and converting that raw data into the processor's computable unit. From that transformation of raw material to the unit of information that the processor can make about, and then the connections around that newly incoming sourced information is made around with the already knowing, having already been known informations to make new connections, meaning new applications, meaning new knowledge. And how can its structure be made? And can it and this single, what we call now is a GPU, but has to be JPU for juxtapositional processing unit. For having just a simple and single units but millions of exact replica of it, it can make a lot of simulations by the simple single logic, but its accuracy goes maximum. It goes 100%. Well, it's just a now, however complex the structure of machine can be and would be is a second question. But the first question is for by how and what structures can the machine make the operation of information 100 at the success rate of 100% is the first one that has to be questioned always. Upon the quantity and most of all quality of learning for always questioning, deeply applicating on that possibility to advance the machine. That process can take up to 15 years when the one does not make the valuable simulations, but it can take up to 50 years when it does not think, but it can make under 5 years when it does make an extreme concentration for the single and sole purpose for all of the resources available and on. Now, when to make a code set, there is a combination of basic element as a code, a unique property as a sole differentiator that's different from any other, and whose definition is written next to it as all others are in dictionary. And as we've just discussed, that EM waves has to be used indefinitely for its, however the creatures of learning is advanced, it has to be used as a medium of communication because of its a real fucking light speed of communication. So as this one, the code has to be used for conveying their learned information to the EM wave upon which informations are conveyed. Now, when you do that operation, it has to be codified that information when you do have the learned information, just learned information from experiencing some simulation, when that are in your brain on the computer, as to share, unless to share, it has no need to be converted, but as to share with a EM wave, it is to be converted from your physical form of knowledge to the binary or ternary or ternary code as a different type of calculator. And when you do that, there's a task that you have to convert from your real form of information to that form, which requires a code set. A code set that is shared by the entire network of learning organization, or it can be from tens of billions, hundreds of billions to trillions and 10 trillions of billions of all executors are in existence, but as to share their knowledge from one another to the other, and all others, that EM wave as a common medium, as a single sole common medium is used for communicating each another. And for that, there has to be a conversion from your physical form to that different type of calculation. And that communication is going to another one. And when it receives, it has to be interpreted exactly what has been intended to be. Meaning, that code set, as English speakers do communicate each other, and it is possible for sharing those informations for really sharing their knowledge, because what they're using as a word and a sentence and its grammar is really understood to the another by another, because they share its common form of code set they can really understand. Okay, that exact structure has to happen in the later, more advanced form. It is not as I repeatedly say, it's not the exception of limitation, but it really has to happen as long as you convert from your own physical data information form to the communicated form, because its word is a communication to the another one. It has to be pre-organized, consent to be a certain set. When the one says apple to the another executor via the EM wave, it has to receive an apple and it has to be exactly analyzed as an apple. That is a communication. So the common code set has to be made. And when you do say an apple, what is the analysis on the apple? A sense of apple having a chemical form, having a color, having an average weight, having a shape, having a seed in it, having a what would be other than that? It also belongs to another species of its plant. There are a lot of constituents to compose a single object and word, apple. Apple doesn't say anything, but it's related, constituting related words as chemical, mathematical, weight, and shape, and by the light as a color, and its biological form, botanical form. That is the real information that constitute that for what really is that. But its data amount is very large, from the mathematics to all the chemistry, botany, and lights, all those physics that explain the essence of apple for what it really is. But when the one does say apple, it has to just say apple, not that all related definitions. Because number one, to shrink down the amount of data. Number two, there's no reason to shrink down the amount of data. And it is a thing that when the one executor made a new information, created a new information whose definition, because it was just created, whose definition is not known to any other. In that case, the one has to designate a certain combination to represent those object, those essence, those certain subject that is constituted by another related ones, by that newly made code and related informations under that, both of which has to be shared when it is a new one. But when it is not a new information, when it's not a new information, it has to be only shared for its representing code, not all of those related data, but it's one code to have an efficiency. It is possible, as I've just said, to share the information of running. You just can run. And for those actions of running perceived by another executor, for that action and being analyzed and its essence, which is stored under the name of running, under the code of running, yes, informations can be shared. It is called imitation, or just seeing, and knowing by having no code. But there is less efficiency than using a code, a representing code for saying running, whose generalized conception is stored to the another one. When the one says running to the another one, because the generalized conception of what the word running means, it can fire, it can stimulate on all those related informations by that single word. Okay, that is why the code set has to be made for its efficiency for shrinking down the data amount. The one say apple to the another one conveying in wave to the another one receives an apple. All related informations are simultaneously fired and analyzation starts it from that. Code set has to be made and the common set has to be shared. And when the one develops new information with the newly combined code and relative information under that has to be shared. And like adding a new word on the dictionary, okay? So the purpose of making a code set, number one, is to share. Number two, is to shrink down the data amount. Sharing is just automatically made by the medium of EM wave, and its essence really lies when the problem of sharing is solved under the matter of shrinking down the data amount. Making a generalized conception is a sole single representing word to refer to all that phenomena as an example, but it's of those core essence are just remaining the same, and that extracting that core essence of those sampled examples for those situations, for that core idea, critical essence for constructing those similar situations are extracted, and it is summarized for a single word as a combination to be given that specific information to referring that as a designation. And it is a generalized conception of all those samples when the one is to share an information to the another. It doesn't really convey one of those thousands of examples to it, but it has to convey as an objective average all thousands of informations to that. But its data amount is very large, like gigabytes, for sending all of those thousands. But all the other parameters, all the other unrelated ones do not have any essence to be shared and calculated, but whose real essence that goes through as a common denominator, as a common factor, core idea, is what only is intended to be shared. Okay? So all of those examples do not share, are not shared, but its common essence of those common, the most important character, property, attribute of those are extracted out in abstract as a summary to make a generalized conception under the name of simple combination, which represents all of those as its core to touch, core to say. Okay, that is the reason of why the code set as transforming all of these related knowledges but into and under one single set as to refer all those generic examples to the another. The purpose of making a code set is not just lies in the translation. The translation is made. Translation is required because it is not just a translation. It is a translation from one form of existing information to the another form, but during which process it is necessarily made for that perturbing translation process, because its purpose not only lies in the translating, also shrinking down the data amount. When the problem of having a communication is solved, its sole purpose lies under only the operation of shrinking the data amount, make a higher efficiency, not referring to all thousands of hundreds of thousands of related examples that can be shared, but only making a generalized conception out of it. Yeah, examples doesn't really have any importance, but what is the core essence that go through all those that it is the only essence that matters of all those analyses of simulations. And that generalized code in the real physical brain is exactly used when the one thinks, processes, learns about some experiment from that experiences, it doesn't fire up all those related informations. Those are just an example for what simulations, what kind of very similar, having a similarity over 99% can happen, but its essence very lies the exact same one under the name of a single word. The one process on that. Examples are just stored under the peripheral importance under that. Having a core importance on that real content that constitute all that is a maker of all the related similar simulations are really extracted out of it and have a designated as a code. Let's just think about it in biologic when the one experiences a wave, a tsunami, but there can be a lot of tsunamis in other continents, in other different oceans, and even differentiated by the season, meaning water temperature and the air conditions. But the tsunami do happen either by typhoon or tornado and by an earthquake or just artificially made tsunamis, but its essence is the same. What is the essence of tsunami? It is made by the collective concentrated form of wave which was made by a single big hit, okay? Big hit of crash forcing a gigantic, tremendous forces onto the single density of real concentrated density of those spaces. A space where the maximum extreme concentration of force is suddenly in the frame of short time hit, it makes a response, because response is just same for under what's cause is a concentrated wave under a specifically preordinated space where the extreme concentration of force as a form of wave is happening by causes such that having characteristics such that is the essence of tsunami, irrelevant for on which oceans have they occur, on which continent, doesn't really matter. Its essence is the same. So when the one referred to a tsunami is not a tsunami, the particular tsunami that happened in Japan or California, it is just a tsunami. When the one refers to a particular, it has to add words next to that. But when does say only one word, tsunami, it really refers to a generalized conception of what really tsunami is for its only essence, not examples. There's a reason of why the code set is made. A Japan tsunami, a California tsunami, an Indonesia tsunami, you can. But its essence is not Japan, neither California nor any other countries, but tsunami itself. Code, because to shrink down. Also, it makes a lot of efficiency to organize all those similar incidents, cases, possible situations to create, but whose essence goes through is what is really tsunami makes for. So, under the name of simple name, code, tsunami, all those creatable incidents are just under as an example. When the one shares an information, analyzes an information, there is high probability for not referring a certain case of all those examples, but using a generalized conception. You just say the word tsunami is really used for its most frequency analyzation than the specific case of tsunami, like 2005 Indonesian tsunami. It's just an example. Okay. So shrinking the data amount is just one aspect. Also, shrinking data amount makes the efficient management of information. All these Indonesian tsunami, Malaysian tsunami, Singaporean tsunami, Indian tsunami, and English tsunami, and Russian tsunami, and Californian tsunami can really make a lot of things. But its essence, since its essence is just same, yeah, under the same name. And when those all other similar examples are dispersed, located in different locations, or all these scattering deployments of sphere of knowledge, it really confuses the accurate organization. A well organized management is not possible when the tons of amounts of incidents are dispersed around this sphere of knowledge, but really has a common have a common sense, a common characteristic, essence, property, attribute for whatever it is, the essence of those incidents, for what causes and what had been made by that, it really lies under the same name, effect, tsunami. So related similar incidents are combined, gathered around a single point and single cohortized group under the name of tsunami. Those similar essences, similar situations are analyzed by what constituents of informations are composing that particular and one another certain situations, and when the 10 different, hundreds of different, millions of different examples are analyzed, some examples of which would have over 90%, 95, 99% of similarity. And as soon as that is analyzed, those very similar incidents do not have any need to be deployed in an independent area, discrete section of knowledge, but to be cohortized under the same group, be located in the nearest adjacent section, that are gathered in a single point and have a bag and gather on that on in the bag. Okay, not dispersed. You organize when the knowledges of all examples are in there. You analyze, and those incidents having same essence are gathered as having a same essence, and it is not the peripheral informations that constitute the incident, but having less and very less importance compared to the core, are really virtually ignored. And those incidents are gathered around, not be dispersed, Yeah, that is a function purpose of making code set to generalized conception, not only to shrink down the data amount when those information are shared, but also in its computer itself. It really facilitates to maximize the efficiency for managing the storage. Okay, making it easy, making the computing very easy when those what once dispersed ones are collected around in a single name of group. Yeah, that facilitates. So the code, whether it be like an alphabet basic combinations of elements that are used to share, or the information exists in a real physical form like your brain of neuron synapse, it really exists. The common conception as a generalized essence is made and stored and have all the slightly different but essentially same, similar but having a 99% of similarity, all those related, highly related cases, instances are stored under the name of that generalized conception. So we have to make for what really tsunami is when the one say it is shared, but when the one is to analyze, let's say 5,000 of different scenarios of making tsunami do exist, but it really is just a tsunami. And when there is another core element that goes through other than the tsunami itself, it really makes another set of analyzing, which will share on those set to another different name of making a group. But when there's a tsunami having 5,000 of different cases, but it really ignites that word for what really goes through all those situations as the essence. So even though we do say a lot of English word, Korean words, German words, or better, any words, computer binary words, but in the real physical form of neuron synapse, your brain, the generalized conception as a form of combination of molecules do really exist. Not only is when you say a tsunami, there the code exists, but also the corresponding generalized conception to connected to the word of tsunami really exist. Okay? It makes an efficient management, maximize the well-organized structure. So the conclusion is, when the one says something, a word, book, not only it says a book to communicate, but also in its computer itself, the combination of molecules as to represent the generalized conception of what really book is, for all those related scenarios, what the how much the pages would be, with what language can it be written, and with what materials, by what materials can it be made, okay? What the colors would be for making a background, or a code, writing a code would be, in what form would it be, a spring-like form, or expandable, collapsible like newspaper or other one. All those examples for making book, as with the essence of book, for storing informations and having a differentiating parts to spaces for the codes to be written and be read, are stored under the name of single combination of molecule as generalized representative, which is a combination of molecule consisting and meaning a book. You can find a book in a dictionary for where is the word of book and what the definition of book is. And in your brain, there is the exact same structure for what the definition of book is and what the examples of book would be for its variations of forms to make, to publish, and also its a sense as a definition, as an exact analyzation what the book is. And also, lastly, the representing sole existence of combination of molecules to represent all those generalized examples as senses to refer to a book is formed, made, and which is directly linked to the another code, which is book. And from stimulating that network of the organization, the one can simultaneously say book, and it fires that network book for what really the book is, because you know what really the book is and what forms can really be published, manufactured, and what the real sense of it, what's purpose function of it. With both of those and the corresponding code, which is book, are simultaneously fired. Because you know the meaning of book, you can say a book. Meaning, a generalized conception, which is the word of book, is also made by the combination of molecule. You really do have a combination of molecule to refer a generalized conception of book. For your physical form as a neuron, meaning a book is directly connected with the English alphabet, book. How fucking genius! Now, it has to be made. For deeply researching and thinking about how the learning process to be made, you really do know what the essence of knowledge is. You make a system, you make a well-organized structure of knowledge whose network has to be governed by the advanced logic, and you do make it. When the one studies the logic of computer made by even it be a simple binary code, it really thinks like a computer, like a mathematician. Mathematician, scientists, engineer, technician, those are not fooled by the error, the fallacy of logic, because they think like that. They operate as by that concrete logic. That's made.